Welcome back to the UPress Play show. And we need to stop calling it the show, man.
Yeah.
Welcome back to UPress Play, sports podcast in collaboration with OwlTV, Owl Radio, and the University Press. That's Maddox. This is Megan. That's Cameron. And today we're going to get into FAU men's basketball non-conference schedule. We're going to tap in a little bit about our predictions for how the FAU football team is going to do this September and get into NFL roster cuts that were just this past week. But before we get into all that, guys, how we feeling? Second week, how we doing?
Great. Everything I feel like is finally settling in. Last week it was all everything's brand new, first day of classes, and getting back into schedule of actually going to school.
You're a commuter now too, so how's that?
Not bad because I'm lucky because my classes are at 9:30, so I can just go in the parking garage and it's not full.
Oh yeah, but like that traffic has been awful for me. Like yesterday, and this is actually doesn't even really have much to do with like Florida traffic because it was at like 11 p.m. But I was like hanging out in Boca and I was going home. 95 was closed. Like I get on 95 and it was literally closed on, like we all had to get off on Hillsborough. So not really having a good time with this commuting stuff.
Right here, so I constantly get trapped into the high school, like the school line traffic, as well as people for FAU.
Yeah, Maddox, are you driving yet?
No.
So how are you getting to campus?
I use just ride a scooter.
You have your license?
And I have my license. I just don't like drive a car or anything. I don't have a car, but
Scooter life.
yeah, but I'm using a scooter because I'm like 5 minutes off campus, so I just like go down the road and I'm here.
Yeah, well, I always see, like, whenever I see people on the scooters, I'm like, man, that looks like, you catch a nice breeze, and I feel like if you got the right song playing, like,
Yeah, but also like I originally didn't like scooter people just because like the past couple of semesters I'd be walking down like Diversity Way and all of a sudden right by me, like bro, I could almost hit you if I moved like one step toward like the wrong direction. I could have got hit and badly injured. So
yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
What about you, Cam?
I've been good. Like Megan said, it's a lot less chaotic this week. Everything like class, the show is a lot less chaotic. We're getting, more comfortable. But yeah, no, football's back, which feels amazing. Got to watch some college football last weekend.
Yeah, Florida State. Did you catch that game?
That was an awesome game. I was at work, so I had it like kind of like almost like in the background, but I got to watch the ending, which was fun. It's just so nice football being back, man.
Yeah, no, I was kind of like talking to family and friends, and I feel like there's like extra hype around college football this season, and I really do think it has to do with the video game because I've been playing it heavy. But even if people that like don't have the game or haven't been playing it, I just think there's been so much like discourse over the summer about college football.
And the 12-team playoff. That's got
12-team
people excited.
playoff, that's definitely hype, especially with like a team like Florida State losing. There's still opportunity for them to still make it. People are gonna want to see their favorite teams in the playoffs and things like that. But it's been great. It's been great hype. But getting into our usual FAU housekeeping, making sure that we cover everything. FAU athletics, we have more news on FAU basketball's non-conference schedule. We just got confirmation via FAU Owl's Nest that the men's basketball team will open the home schedule with a contest against Georgia Coastal University, or excuse me, Coastal Georgia University. Never heard of these guys. No offense to all the people out there in coastal Georgia, but it's encouraging. Last show we talked a little bit about, I believe, the Oklahoma State game and the Charleston Classic tournament that they'll be playing in. So it seems like a lot of news is slowly kind of creeping out about the schedule. This is probably a bye game. According to Owl's Nest as well, this is going to count as a regular season contest for Florida Atlantic, but an exhibition for Coastal men's basketball. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, I mean, it happens all the time, yeah.
So how's it? But so if we lose, it's bad. It goes against our record. But if they lose, it's just like whatever.
Essentially.
Well, hey, shout out to Coach Jacobs. He's mentioned that he's like a scheduling wizard and he knows how to.
For FAU, it's a tune-up game. I don't see very many universes where FAU loses that game. There probably won't be a betting line, but if there is, FAU should be like 40-point favorites.
Yeah.
It's a tune-up game. When you have a brand new roster, you don't want to be like scheduling Duke, your first game of the year, but they've proved with like the playing in like some of these tournaments like Oklahoma State, they're not going to shy away from scheduling some big dogs in their non-conference schedule. So I like that they have if they're gonna, not scare away from beefing up the non-conference schedule, at least one like tune-up game to get things like in the flow.
Yeah, and I think it's important to have that like at the beginning of the season versus just having like a random tune-up game in like November.
Right.
And I think it's good for the fans to like being introduced to like a new team and new players and stuff like that. Hopefully, like Cam said, they should take care of business, and that'll allow the home fan base to get introduced to a lot of the players.
Yep, I think also we just like good for the players as well, just getting like new to the system of play and just like kind of getting familiar with one another playing as a team. And also again, just like building confidence for a team. Of course you want to have like competitive games, kind of show your worth, but also like having some of those like easier games, like beatable games early in the season, especially against a team in the NAIA. So having like something like that kind of boosts the confidence of the team, feeling confident heading towards opponents like Oklahoma State, like UCF, because those higher up teams, at least having some easier games to play against before that.
I think it's good too because the athletes, the players, they're gonna have to get used to the environment in the arena now. Based off the last 2 years, the energy of like the fan base really has gone up like crazy, and it's an insane environment. I can't imagine. It must be hard because there's been instances last season. I don't remember the specific games where it happened, but actually, I believe it was Memphis.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Said that it was so loud he couldn't talk about the plays. So I feel like it's good too. I like how Cameron described it as a tune-up game, like just getting in the flow of actually playing in their home court.
Yeah, and it being like an exhibition for Coastal Georgia, I think I don't want to necessarily say that they won't take it serious because usually when a smaller school plays a bigger school, there's always like that chip on the shoulder. But hopefully, yeah, it kind of just reaches a point where they can just start practicing plays. Maybe we see a little bit of the bench guys because I think also when you have a roster that you're pretty much building from scratch, you have your rotations coming into the game. I kind of expect like anywhere between like a 10 to a 12 player rotation, at least for the first couple weeks, just because they're practicing already, and Coach Jacobs probably already has an idea of what his depth chart looks like. But you want to see what you really have, and health plays a factor as well. So guys got to be ready for like that next man up mentality. But going into the next game, which is I would definitely say quite a stark contrast from what we would call a tune-up game. Confirmations via Rocco Miller, who's a well-known bracketologist. For people that don't know what that means, for the people that don't keep up college basketball, it's pretty much like people that kind of predict the 64 teams that will be in the NCAA March Madness tournament. Sources have confirmed to him that there will be a game between Michigan State and Florida Atlantic. No, this is not football. We will also be playing them in basketball. The date is set for December 21st, which is a Saturday, and the game will be in East Lansing. So thoughts on another Power 4 schedule on the list? We already have confirmation that they'll at least play Oklahoma State. There's some high mid-majors in that tournament as well. There was also sources confirming a game against Indiana State, which is very popular mid-major last season. So beefing up the schedule, but what do we think about FAU against MSU?
Like Michigan State, their basketball team has always been pretty solid in their program. Like that's one of the things they're known for. Their basketball and like their hockey teams have always been good. And that's kind of what they're known for. And like 2 years ago when FAU first got into the Final Four, they had the chance to play Michigan State, but then Michigan State ended up losing, so that's why. That's a really tough. It'll be a tough game, but it definitely we can see how the team's strength, and especially since it might be in East Lansing, that'll definitely play a factor. But yeah, I'm excited to see that matchup.
Yeah, I also feel like I'm really excited for that matchup as well, especially with a legendary coach like Tom Izzo in that program like Michigan State, who have had a very deep program, plenty of famous alumni, notable alumni, including, if I remember correctly,
Magic.
Yeah, I was gonna say like Magic Johnson. I'm pretty sure went to Michigan State. So like, including him, a tremendous Hall of Famer, great basketball player. So I'm saying you're great. The word tremendous. I knew that grid, but.
He's tremendous. One.
but
he's a tremendous talent.
for that great program they have there. So it'll be definitely a test for FAU. But again, that's what we want to see. We want to see you going against these tough opponents early on, leading into the conference play, which also will be very tough, as we saw in the last postseason. That was a very difficult, exciting tournament to see. So I'm glad.
Yeah, now knowing that they're playing Michigan State, I like them having that tune-up game before even more. But like we said, they're not shying away from beefing up their non-conference schedule. That game will tell them a lot because that early in the season, playing a team like Michigan State,
right before you're about to get into conference play.
Right. Obviously, you're going into the game like playing to win, but you're more. I'm in a game like that. I'm more looking like, do you go in there and not fold, not get run off the court? Yeah. So that's what a game like that will tell you about them. That's more what I'm looking for.
Yeah. I just think with the way it's scheduled now, I think we'll already kind of have some sort of identity with the team.
Right.
A few games will have already been played by then. And I think that'll determine, if going into that game will, the fan base and even the team themselves kind of feel like, yeah, we have a really good chance of beating these guys because, like we've been saying, with the transfer portal, we don't even really have a good scope on how Michigan State's going to be this season. So,
but that'll always be a team
that you want to
is ready to play.
Yeah,
and under Izzo, that's Mr. March right there. And those stretch of games in March that Megan was talking about, I got to watch them and something. They were a really, really good team. And they're going to be it obviously very different now. But that's always going to be a team that's has talented players, especially talented guard play always, and a team that's going to be ready to play. So even like 4 months, however far we are from the season, that's a game you can circle. We're going to find out a lot about this team that we don't really know too much about. That game we're going to find out a lot about.
Plus, especially being like a Big Ten opponent as well, that conference just grew, and
Yeah.
they have a lot of talented programs there. Oregon, Purdue, those Indiana, those like big known prestigious basketball programs as well. So it'll be a very good challenge for FAU to face early on this season.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of one of those games that, obviously it's kind of, there's like a specific phrase for it where like if you win, it's like absolutely great, but if you lose, it's really not that bad. Because I think Michigan State, they always ramp up and always go on a nice little win streak come February going into March. So, talking about like the way the quad system works and quad wins on our last show, which you can check out at OwlTV. All our episodes are on there on YouTube. It's if we win that game, we have to pretty much support Michigan State for the rest of the season, which is never really too hard. I think Tom Izzo's a great guy, a great coach, just from what I've seen covering the sport. And they have plenty of opportunity to, really beef up their win stuff. So if we win that game, it could kind of be like Arizona last year, where it can probably be a quad 1 win, which is absolutely great for the resume for the rest of the season.
And even if you don't win that game,
quad 1 loss isn't.
That's what I'm saying. Rolling into East Lansing, it's not an easy place to play, and giving a really like a top 25 team a run for their money, even if you don't win the game, that looks good on your resume. So.
But like losing a game like Coastal Georgia,
that also looks really bad.
I think you would immediately like be banned from March Madness.
I think last season early on when FAU was just FGCU and like the next opponent FGCU played, FGCU was like blown out in their own arena or something. So it looked very bad on FAU being like y'all lost by like.
I can't express though how much like worse of a loss that is Coastal Georgia is than Bryant.
I feel like just because like
it's like we're watching tennis.
Like FGCU, I forgot exactly what conference they're on.
Atlantic 10, I want to say.
Yeah.
Around like that conference, but then got Coastal Georgia and their NAIA, which is kind of like the little brother of the NCAA, so it kind of like even more like a lower like.
It's a game they can't lose.
Competitively versus like any like NCAA team, so losing to like Coastal Georgia, even if it's like a little like.
Crazy we're even like discussing it as a possibility.
No, but I think we have to because
because we just don't know.
Right.
You just
what
never
to
know
expect.
what college
That's
basketball
sport.
and specifically just the team. You know, we haven't seen what they look like. Obviously, I think from a talent perspective, yeah, give me FA smashing that over, or what's the terminology when like the spread? Give me the spread.
Oh,
I don't
covering
bet-
the spread, yeah.
Yeah,
Covering
I
the spread.
don't bet. Well, actually, I won't say that, but I don't bet personally, because it's scary. I hit on one bet one time. I think it was one of the ones where, what did you call it, a parlay?
Parlay.
Oh, give me the over on points. The guys under on rebounds. I hit it. It was like $20 to win 100. Or no, excuse me.
They almost got you.
It was 20 to win 50, and when I won it, it was preseason NBA,
Yeah.
mind you.
Mhm.
The only reason I knew it would
Bro
hit,
was betting on preseason NBA.
no, bro, but because I wanted to try it, and
Who was betting on preseason?
no, the
NBA?
reason it's foolproof, right, is because I knew this was when Paolo Banchero of the Orlando Magic, he was a rookie, so I knew, all right, it's preseason, he's a rookie, he's gonna play, give me the over on the points, and then the Heat were not playing any of their starters, so I was like, all right, let me get Duncan Robinson over on the threes. There's a few more things in the mix in that parlay. I hit. I was like, holy smokes, this feels great. It's so amazing.
Yep, there it is.
Yeah,
They got you. They got him.
And then
They got him.
I lost those because this app that I used to bet on, you have to win a certain amount of money to actually take it out. So I
That's a
played.
weird rule. What?
No, it's real, and that's how they got me.
Was that like DraftKings?
We will not discuss
Yeah,
the app. If you want us to promo, hit us up. But yeah, and then I ended up losing the whole $50, and after
Nice.
that, I was like,
You're done.
Yeah,
I'm done.
I
Retired.
tried some of that like sports stuff as well, and like I just wasn't good at it. Like made some predictions. Then when I was like,
the most I'll do
I
is
was like bored by this. I was like,
yeah, the most I'll do is fantasy football, and actually the few first times that I've done fantasy football it was never for money, but then I actually won. I won the league.
That's how it starts.
Yeah, no, I
Win.
won the league, and I was like, man, this is fire. Like, I really shout out Kyron Williams and Puka Nacua of the LA Rams. I got them on waivers, and I was like, oh man, like I could do this for money. So I'm in one league for $20, which is like very docile. But then I have another homie that I have friends in New York, and they're trying to do it for 50. Now I'm like,
oh wait, so that fantasy league that you won, what, like a couple years ago or something?
this was last season.
Last season, someone gave you Puka Nacua. They have him on waivers.
No. This was before. This was last season, so Puka wasn't like.
Oh, okay. So like early on in the
very after the first week, yeah. He was
okay.
still on waivers. People didn't know about it.
Kicking themselves.
Yeah, no. If there's any fantasy advice I can give to the listeners on the Breezeway, listening on the radio, or live on our TV, if you know you're gonna lose your first week, you could just throw it because then you get priority on waivers. So I lost my first game, and you get priority on waivers. That's how I was able to get Kyron and Puka. Absolutely carried my team.
Fantasy skill or fantasy advice is fake. It's all guessing.
You think so?
It's all guessing. It's
But,
all
like,
luck.
There's like actual like channels and like.
I
actual
guess. I
ESPN.
guess if you like break it down
There's
and use analytics and data and like study spreadsheets, but at the end of the day, it all comes down to luck.
Yeah,
That's it.
almost like unpredictable, especially with I think I mentioned how like
Injury.
DJ Moore I think has like 44-point fantasy thing, and like a lot of people didn't start him, and a lot of people were pissed. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, I like
It's all
my
luck.
roster, I didn't start him, so it's like all about luck. If you assume
That's
I-
why fantasy football is fun. It's
Yeah.
like if you just, it's just guessing and telling your friends they don't know anything when
you're
you're
lost
right.
in your league.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we got to take the Megan approach.
Or just don't bet, which is what I do.
don't bet.
I
It's
don't
honorable.
lose money.
And draft on vibes. Like
Yeah, I just purely draft on vibes. And
that's all you
I have
got.
a
I
cool
don't
name
know.
given
I've
to me.
been in fantasy, so I don't
Oh,
We
got it. We did say we were gonna do student media fantasy. If anything, if we have time after the show. This man. It says
know. We
the
can do $0.
$0. Yeah, we could do $0.
Or you can make
Wink,
5.
winks into the camera.
So if I win, then I can say I bet and won money.
All right, so that's all we have for the FAU basketball non-conference schedule. There's definitely more news that'll be coming out as we start to ramp up. When the full non-conference schedule is released, we will have a story for you at universitypress.com. Next thing on the list for FAU athletics is volleyball. Megan has some interesting news from the NCAA about some rule changes. And I was able to learn something new. So please share with the masses.
So basically, back in February, the NCAA they implemented 2 rule changes in college volleyball. And basically, what it is now they removed the double contact, so that basically on the first contact, it's usually a pass from a defensive player, and then the second one is a set from the setter. And what happens if they set the ball and it rotates, it'll get called as a double because that's like you touched the ball twice. But now they removed that. So if a ball spins when a person sets it, then there can't be any call made.
Okay, so can I step in here? Because even when I
Does
read
that-
it, no, because
is
even
that
when I read
understandable?
it, no.
Okay.
It's also because I only really watch volleyball when it's like playoff time.
Yeah.
And it's like on ESPN over this. I think it's
Yes.
it's going on. The season's in. It's
The
in season.
season, our FAU's first game is this Friday at 12.
Yeah. So I catch bits and pieces. So like, all right, let's say right, somebody like spikes it right, and then hits it right, and then no. Please correct me because we need to teach the masses that aren't there on volleyball. Do you guys get it? Did you guys get it?
I think I understood, but
So
now that you're all
person-
confused, I'm scared I
The
don't.
person hits it right, and then the person goes to recover it. So pass right. So that's the first one to make sure it doesn't
The
get.
first touch is usually a pass, and then the second touch is when the setter goes in and uses their hands to set.
Right?
And then what happens is a ball would spin, and then the referee would call that as a double, even if it just had like a slight spin to it.
How does that count as 2 touches?
Because what happens is when you set a ball, it's supposed to fall into your hands, and then when you press it out, it shouldn't rotate if you. 'cause
Which
it's
makes
in your
sense.
hands.
It's almost like,
then
think
if
like a carry almost in basketball,
Yeah.
essentially, like that rule.
I understand. Yeah, because I know you're not allowed to really like hold the ball.
Right.
It has to be like a tab.
What would happen is a double contact would get called when a setter they'd go to set the ball, but instead of having their hands at the same exact position, they would have one like higher up and one in the back. So when they went to set, it would kind of go like that and it'd be uneven,
like a
and then the
double
ball
touch.
would spin like crazy. And then
So it's like a double.
That's
dribble.
interesting, actually.
yeah, exactly. It's
like a
literally like a double dribble, but instead it's like you're setting it.
And so now you can double dribble.
Now you can double dribble.
That's
like in
crazy.
basketball version what it is. So it's a really big deal, and like Fernanda Nelson, the women's volleyball head coach, she was Brazil's national setter in 1997. So she has like really great direct experience with this, and she thinks that it's a good change. And so did the setter, Victoria Hensley. She believes it's a good change too, just because of how inconsistent refs were with the calls, because everyone has their own personal opinions. I played volleyball for like 7 years. I had a ref. I had to call like double contacts, and I like wasn't sure. Sometimes it was just like you think it is, so you just call it. So it's a really good change in that aspect because it removes the inconsistency. And it also
Kind of sit out of the ref's hand.
yeah, exactly. It takes kind of some of the like game decisions out of the ref's hands. And also one of the things that the coach really liked about it is now, like, let's say the setter is the first person to contact the ball. Like, let's say they pass it first.
Okay.
Now, when a defensive specialist or a hitter who aren't the people that are trained to set perfectly, now they can just set and not have a fear of getting called, which is something that she said she really liked. And I thought that was like a great perspective, because I didn't really think about that. And then that was the first, like, that's the main rule change. And the second one, now they can use 2 liberos, which is good. Just
That's the person with a different shirt.
yeah, it's the person with the different shirt. They're like the special ones. They only can play in the back row. And coach just likes, because now she can kind of diversify her roster a little bit more. And then if one of the liberos is getting tired, they can swap out.
I'm sorry, libero?
Libero.
How do you spell that?
Libero.
Where does that come from?
Liberace.
I'm so confused. Like,
I don't know, it's some language.
it's like I don't know. It sounds like a name. Like, imagine there was there was a football position named like Sanchez or something. Like,
So wait, 2. You can only have 1 libero
You can only have 1 libero
or on the floor.
court.
So now you can have. So what? The way I.
No, now, okay, it used to be you only could have 1 on your roster.
Maddox's face. He's so locked in.
It used to,
the next couple of weeks. I'm trying to
Write that down, write that down.
memorize like the rule.
it used to be only 1 libero could be on the roster. Now it's 2.
Okay.
So that means she can use 2 in a game, but still only 1 can be on the court at the same time.
Yeah, because I do see that in some like I guess rotations there isn't a libero on the court.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah, that depends if the middle is actually good at.
well, I mean, it's just this whole thing is just interesting to me because it's like you're making like a
This is like that
like a
NFL.
rule change that's gonna inherently change like outcomes of like the game,
Yeah.
which is like you don't like. I'm trying to think of like a comparison to like a major sports.
NFL kickoff, the new rule. That's how I see it, especially
Or
with
if
this
like
double
in
barrel.
basketball they removed the double dribble rule.
That's what I think. That's what I'm saying.
That would be
like,
crazy, but is it really that dramatic though?
Yes.
Wow.
wow.
Because it
So I'm
has
just gonna
Because-
to the basket.
so many games. Like it has made, yeah, it's really changed games in the past.
I would say I think that's like a better example because with like the NFL, like at least in the preseason, I don't think like that's changed like the game too much. And I want to say I read something from The Athletic. It was about it. It's there in the preseason there wasn't like a kick taken back, and like the change of like average starting point wasn't incredibly dramatic at all. But this sounds like something that's gonna like have like almost every game like because how often is something like that getting called in a game?
Oh, constantly.
But
At
so-
least like 5 or 6 times during a game.
Now, here's
Wait,
my-
you said, wait, sorry,
No, go ahead.
but you said like they get penalized. Will they like lose like a point? So like certain like
Well,
plays on like
it-
the court, like you will lose a point. Like you hit the net.
It would, the point would go to the other team. So I guess
Like 1 point away from winning a set, and then it goes to the other team.
I would say that's a lot different than if that's happening 5-6 times a game. That's really changing outcomes. I feel like.
So will they not call it if it's like a very intentional like like let's say it's the setter for example and they go like with one hand they tap it up and then with the left hand they tap it too. So you could literally juggle the ball in your hand now?
I guess so, yeah.
Well, I guess we'll have to see how it's officiated, and I assume that players are going to try to get creative with it.
I would
as
say.
well.
I feel like there has to be some sort of line. No.
Well, there is a line if they double when they're setting their teammate, it's fine. But if they double it when they're setting the ball over the net,
the net.
then it still is a penalty.
Yeah, because like, what if like, let's say I like go to set it and then like I do like a fake behind the back, like
Yeah, that wouldn't be allowed.
it's
So
yeah.
it's only like it has to be you're passing it to your teammate.
Yeah, that's
Makes me mean what rule changes do other sports need?
definitely not. If we got rid of the double dribble, James Harden would have averaged like 60, 100 million points. Well, but wow, that's actually really, really crazy. I mean, I know that's like a very lazy way to leave that off.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Wait, wasn't there like another rule like also in that article?
Oh yeah, the libero.
The libero thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is wow. So it'll be interesting to see, you know, the rest of the season and how it looks and stuff like that.
Any volleyball fans, that's a big deal.
Yeah, and if our explanation didn't make too much sense, you can check out our article on UPress online. It's titled "Volleyball NCAA Implements 2 Rule Changes for 2024 Season." Absolutely stellar article by John Berg. Shout out you, John.
Yeah.
You did a great job. Next on FAU athletics, FAU has a beer. It's just absolutely crazy. But no, let me give you some more information via a press release from Florida Atlantic. As that loads up, shout out FAU Wi-Fi. But pretty much, I believe the company is Isla Morada. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Isla Morada Beverages partners with Florida Atlantic for Paradise Lager Craft Beer. The beginning reads, Florida Atlantic has partnered with Isla Morada Beverages to launch Paradise Lager, the official craft beer of the Owls. The beer will debut in athletic venues, including FAU Stadium, and be sold in select retail locations across the Tri-County area in the coming weeks. I sent this to Megan as an idea for a story because there's plenty of things to discuss here that we will somewhat get to right now. But I just remember the first thing she said was, "Man, that can is sick." And I can't lie, the can from a marketing standpoint is pretty cool. But I mean, guys, what do we think about that?
I think it's dope. I think it's a really cool idea. They're not though. FAU disclaimer: FAU is definitely not like the first to do this. But they're not.
Yeah, because I was saying
Like I want to say FIU like a year ago had one. And there are other schools who have done it before. But I think it's like it's good that like FAU is keeping up with the Joneses and doing like these marketing things to make sure that they're staying competitive with resources, facilities, NIL. So it's cool that they're doing it. And also like that they partnered with this company because for those of you who don't know, that same company 3 years ago, when Cozy Perry still played quarterback, they did an NIL deal with him, and he became like the first college athlete to have like an alcohol NIL deal. So I
Really?
think it's cool that they have
We'll
like
be writing that down for our story.
Like I
Take
said, when I
notes.
was listening to that, I immediately thought of what happened. There's like some news recently about like I think like 24 or 25 like limited teams are getting like a limited deal sponsorship with Bud Light. It's like Florida, Arkansas, and a couple other more like prominent known university athletics.
Getting like their
Like,
own
like
can.
Bud Light.
Yeah, so
Like, that's FAU kind of what you're saying.
Yeah.
The Jones like
keeping up with the times.
Never heard that phrase.
Really?
Keeping up with the Jones.
Put it in your
It's
pocket.
like a grandpa thing.
Dang.
That's
I'm catching nasty strays.
That's ugly.
I get called Unc all day. Okay, I'm just playing. But I think it's a cool way to, it's like, I think we talked about it last week. The position FAU's in, they got to be doing everything they can, things like this, to keep up with like the big dogs, the blue bloods. So I think it's cool. And we were talking about it before. It's just they're going to be selling this at games. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, it'll be at FAU Stadium, sold in retail locations across the Tri-County area.
So people, all the fans, rejoice that you have something besides Rolling Rock to enjoy now. So.
Yeah, I just think the first thing that really struck me, and I didn't actually know that about Nikosi's NIL deal.
Yeah.
It's sort of just like the optics of that, because I understand for Nikosi Perry, he was a graduate student probably by the time he signed this deal, so he was probably of drinking age. But I think it's just an interesting move that I would like to understand more, and which we will definitely dive into in our article, is if there's really no concern to kind of for college campuses to be partnering with alcoholic companies, because majority of FAU student population is underage. Some of the athletes aren't of drinking age, so signing this deal, they'll definitely have to be pretty conscious of okay, well, I want this player to have an NIL deal and promote our beverage, but are they even of drinking age? And there's going to definitely be, just inherently, being honest here, there's going to be students that want to try it and aren't going to be able to, but, we're not naive. They'll find a way. So, I think from a marketing standpoint, and obviously for alumni and the older students, I think it's really cool, and it shows like a strong brand and identity. But I'm just very curious about the optics of that.
Yeah, I think also it'd be good for FAU just because, as I was saying with the Bud Light thing, that's kind of a limited time deal. And that Bud Light sharing with other universities versus with FAU, this local brewery that has already a history with NIL for FAU. FAU is in their own special beverage tied with a company, not having to work with other universities, being part with other universities. It's their own special beverage, but I think also be very interesting.
Yeah, well, it's interesting too because like last week I had the article about Celsius, and like certain athletes are being told don't do partnerships like with Celsius because it's not a good drink for you. So it's interesting to me too that they're promoting beer, which is alcohol isn't like good for you. So it's kind of like, are they gonna allow the athletes to promote it since it's an FAU brand, even though it's not really something that is like a healthy kind of habit?
Well, to play devil's advocate as I drink my soda, most things aren't really good for you.
Well,
but I do understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I know most things aren't good for you, but that's why it kind of was just shocking to me, because it's like they have these regulations where student athletes can't promote like an energy drink, but then which is supposed to like give you energy and kind of like promote like your skill during a game, but then it's like this, which obviously they probably didn't do the partnerships specifically so athletes could promote it, but that's just one of the things that
I just imagine like Cam Fancher, he does a commercial where he like throws like a game-winning touchdown and he's like, yeah, and then he like flipping a beer like Stone Cold and like cracks them together.
They like dump the Gatorade tank with the
Isla Morada, the Paradise Lager.
I'm more interested what it's gonna taste like.
He is 21.
True.
So
true.
Yes, he is 21. I am 21. They are. I won't say unfortunately, but you guys are not. So you guys have. When's your birthday?
May 27th.
I'm in January.
Okay, so you have a really long time before you can try it.
Yeah.
And hopefully it is not discontinued by then.
Hopefully not, because that can't, like, that's what I said.
It is a collector's.
Like, so cool. Like, I would want the can just to like as an FAU student, it's like
I'm gonna try the beer. At least leave one of the
Yeah.
cans just for.
Yeah, we're gonna have to crack it open
Save
and
the
empty it.
empty one.
Yeah, we'll have to give it to you empty. But yeah, very very interesting. But I mean, overall, as a FAU student, obviously we want to see the university do well, and the brand grow. So just an interesting choice. And now it just kind of makes me think like there's really no limit to, partnerships and deals in college athletics.
Yeah, actually,
We had the conversation that commercialization is just absolutely off the charts right now.
Yeah, actually, I was gonna say I was thinking about this, and you guys discussing about like of age thing of like can't drink. You could be 21 to drink. Also, kind of like gambling, like 21's in some states. Also, sports gambling depends on like certain states and the age. So I'm wondering also like soon enough with like some teams like maybe UNLV in Las Vegas, they're gonna have a sponsorship like Caesars or whatnot. In which case, like you're kind of promoting like some athletes.
And it's already
Sports gamble. So
If you're questioning like how long, it won't be long.
yeah, I mean, they're already doing QR codes. They're doing like the logos on the field. They're not doing like
Yeah.
beer.
Let's talk about that. Is that not a stupid idea? Oh, the QR. Oklahoma State, they have like a new NIL initiative to where their players wear QR codes on the back of their helmet. That
as he points to his thigh.
yeah, I'm not sure on the back, like a QR code on the back of their helmet that I guess fans are supposed to be able to scan.
Can't even
And they can
I tweeted that being like, how are you going to watch like unless
again me with like
the
my
jump-
my $73 seats like sitting next to God. I'm not gonna be able to like. I'm not gonna be able. I can't even read his like number that's like this big
I
up
can't
there.
even scan QR codes that right in front of my phone.
Right.
from the TV too. It's like how are you expecting?
I would say that's what I was. Someone brought up like, oh well, like 90% of the people who are like doing this, are gonna be like watching on TV, which like true, but again, I can't even scan it. And plus, I feel like the people who are making NIL donations aren't gonna be like watching from TV. They'll be at the game. So
Like imagine,
Pause the game and just be like, oh, let me scan this QR code really quick so I can like.
or just imagine like it's a player like walking through the tunnel and there's a fan and it's like, hey, excuse me, turn your head, like scan.
I know you're so locked in, but please turn around and stand there for 15 seconds so I can scan your QR.
do like the jumbotron, like at a certain point in the game, have like a CGI or whatever graphic of the
Yeah.
helmet, and then like having panic.
Okay, then
Like, for a
what's the
couple of
point of sticking the QR code on the back?
I guess just to like also like show it on TV too or what? I don't know.
Commercialization, man.
Now I'm just imagining like the team walking through their tunnel and then all the fans leaning over with their phones, like trying to scan.
What we should do is find who the athletic director for Oklahoma State is, and like interview him.
What was the thought process with that? But no, it's moments like this that make me miss Key and Peele. Or maybe it'd be dope if like Saturday Night Live did a bit on like
These ridiculous
commercialization
NIL.
and all these ridiculous NIL ideas and
Yeah.
stuff like that, because that was definitely a funny one. But yeah, definitely interested to try this Isla Morada beverage. Once again, I am 21. But yeah, interesting for the school, and I'm just really curious to see what's next as far as a marketing or partnership standpoint. But the last thing on the agenda for FAU housekeeping, this was honestly a really great segment. Lots of things to talk about. Is we have an article on the UPress page, staff predictions, expectations for the 2024 football season. If you want to read some of the staff's predictions on the season, what they believe the win and loss total is going to be, especially for the conference record, you can check that out on our website. I have the team going 6-6 and 4-4 in the non-conference schedule. I think that just to not read off my article, when Tom Herman was hired, the expectation was a bowl game. There's been a bowl game drought since 2020, since Willie Taggart was the head coach, and even then they lost that game. And I mean, the bar for a bowl game is just 6 wins. There's hundreds of bowl games all over the country, so to just get invited or considered for any one, obviously I don't want to necessarily use the word mediocre, but there's just different levels to bowl games and things like that. It's just the truth about the state of the sport. And I'm looking, at the schedule, and I just think that's a good place, especially for Herman having to pretty much rebuild the roster. And with this being his first full off season with the team, really catering to the type of offense that he wants to build, the defensive coordinator, Coach Rock Bellatoni, and the defense that he wants to build. I think right there, a middle of the pack team in a AAC that's definitely growing, and a school that has definitely been focused on basketball the last 2 years. I think a neutral record and getting a bowl game, and if you win that bowl game, you end up above 500 for the year, and I think that's a pretty reasonable spot for them.
Yeah.
I think that's a
I know you have to go off the dome with it.
I think 6-6. I think more should be like their floor, man. That like, I think they should be like, I think like 8-4 might be what I would like, somewhere around there. Again, I'm not looking at their schedule right now. But whenever they hired, like you brought up Herman, whenever they hired Tom Herman, a coach that has coached at the University of Texas, and won, I think, like 75% of his games there, was really, really good, a winner at Houston before that. I think 6-6 is like the floor of what you're expecting, because like you said, you're expecting to get in a bowl game with a guy like that every year. So I'd say like if they're just scraping in to a bowl game, that'd be like a disappointment, especially when you look at their schedule, because they don't play a tough schedule.
Yeah, I think I believe the stat is that they have the weakest schedule in the AAC.
Yeah, I would say I don't have strength of schedule like stats in front of me.
Yeah, pull that
but
up.
if you were to tell me that, I wouldn't, because just looking at like their non-conference, yes, they play Michigan State week 1, but every other game in their non-conference schedule should be winnable. They should beat Wagner. I'm confident in their chances even going to Connecticut, right? Some people might not be as confident, but I am. I really think you should beat FIU, especially at home in a game like that. I think you should be competitive against Army. And that's just to name, like we said, September. So like they should be about like winning 3-4 of those games. That sets you up right there. And coming out of September already with 3-4 wins, that's kind of setting you up to win, to get into a bowl game.
And it's probably by design.
Right, exactly. That's setting you up to get a bowl game. And that's kind of where they've been at the last couple of years. Because if you look at their schedule the past few years, they've been at 5 wins with either 3 or 4 games left in the season, and they just drop those 3 and get booted out. That's what's happened both. They've gone into week 12 needing to win that game to get into a bowl game. That's where you don't want to be. So, and that's what I'm assuming 6-6 would be. So I'm more expecting like an 8-4, and if you're going into week 12 playing for a bowl game still, that's a disappointment, I'd say.
I'm gonna go the opposite way of you, and I feel like I don't see a bowl game happening this year. I think that it might happen. My prediction is going like 5-7. I feel like those couple of games leading up to the AAC is really what is going to determine if they get a bowl game. That's my perspective, because I personally think against Michigan State, that's probably a loss. Army, I really feel like Army is going to take that one. But then the FIU, the Connecticut, and the Wagner, if they can win all 3 of those, then I have faith that they're for sure going to win another 3 in the AAC to go and get that bowl game title. But where my concern comes in is the Connecticut game. I don't know. I know, Cam, like you said, you feel like that they'll win it even though it's at Connecticut, but that's the game that I feel like is a toss-up. And if they win Connecticut, then yeah. But that game, for some reason, I don't know why I'm putting pressure on that one in specific. But yeah, that's just what I'm thinking, just because I know that Tom Herman, like, he has bowl game history, but he still is working with, he got a pretty new team in his first year, and now he had like LeJontay Wester and then Daniel Richardson, like did I say his last name?
Yeah.
Okay. Like, he had their quarterback and then their go-to wide receiver leave. So
And a lot more in between. Yeah, that's just hitting the big ones. They're starting over essentially.
Of the people that left that were really impactful, I think those 2.
Right.
So that's just why, just because they still have a lot of new players on their roster, even though he had a whole off season.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying 5-7.
Yeah, and I put down they'll be just like JD 6 for 6, 4 for 4 in the conference. Because I put down for my prediction, like I do think that I hate saying the word like disappointment, but a lot of people had high expectations in a way, especially since having like a coach like Coach Herman who has a great record in bowl games, has not lost a
Would you
bowl.
call it tremendous?
Um, then you have the starting quarterback who got injured in like the third or fourth week right before heading to conference play. He used to play quarterback for Tom Herman in University of Texas. So everyone's like, okay, well, he's returning back to his head coach. They were together at Texas, so kind of good chemistry. That's good for us. And of course, LeJontay Wester, one of the best returner specialists in all of college football on the team. Like, okay, that's great. High expectations. And then losing to Ohio, then losing to East Carolina, all those injuries piling up, and then going to conference games, going against some opponents. I feel like that's kind of a winnable game or easy win, either get close or losing. So out of conference games earlier in the season, again, Michigan State probably be a loss. Army kind of depends on, but like FIU, UConn, Wagner, 3 to 4 wins right before conference play, end of September, setting yourself up good. Some of the in-conference opponents will have to determine. But I mean, like Temple, first time playing them, that could be a win. Charlotte, FAU played against Charlotte and destroyed them. That's the end of the season. That could the second to end the season. That could be a win right there. So I feel like going too high, being like 8 wins, I don't know. But especially since Herman, his first season, he came in to FAU in December when the season was just over. Didn't do much recruiting, while a lot of coaches kind of do recruiting right around that time for high school. He didn't do much recruiting. A lot of recruits, former coach Blake Taggart brought in, a lot of them kind of left, so he had to try and quickly work on his own recruits. But some did good, like Zeke Moore. Then getting some of those transfer guys and some guys at the end of the season, in this off season, a lot of guys left or got drafted. So Herman mentioned that a lot of people who really didn't want to be really were invested are now gone. So we're having people on our team that are more invested in us. But that being leading to another problem of new coach, new background, who would be the new wide receiver, seeing how the defense is, especially since Jerron Moore is the key guy in that secondary.
So what would your if you had to like pin it right now, where do you say they end up week 12?
Week 12, so like
6
6.
yeah,
middle of the pack.
I mean, again, I know there's a
Is my stock too high?
I think, well, you've been definitely covering football the most.
I mean, I'm just thinking like
This is like the first full year we're seeing Herman with like the recruits he worked with that he tried to get. These new guys coming in to be a big question, but he's not had a full year here working to build up the team he wanted.
maybe my stock is too high, but I'm just thinking
The
like
schedule looks good and favorable for FAU, but we said that last season too, like, oh, some opponents, oh, these are easy wins, and like losing to Ohio, but they're like top guy who like just showed up in the game before.
man, I'm glad you brought that up because one, it's just as much change as they have this year, they had as much last year. And that schedule they played last year was significantly harder. Just look at the first 4 games. You had Illinois and Clemson all within that first 4 week. And just the familiarity of year 2, I think, will help them. And I think he asked Tom Herman that. I think the quote he had in like the first day of practice was like, the first year is like drinking out of a fire hose. There's just so much chaos, so much change. Compound that with, the roster turnover of a modern Group of 5 college football program and that hard schedule. That's just like a recipe to go 4-8 in your first year. So now when you're bringing back, the same system in the same offensive coordinator, same defensive coordinator, yes, there's that turnover. Compare that with a much, much easier schedule. I just think it's got to get a little bit better, I think.
Yeah,
maybe my stock.
But I also feel like, for me, just personally, I feel like the third game of the schedule, FIU, might be the most pressure for them early on, just because their first Shula Bowl game, and you gotta see like, because FIU has not lost FIU in like 6 years, like first time for Coach Herman playing against FIU in the Shula Bowl. And we have seen last season how some of those like easier opponents, FAU really didn't favor too well against them, and sometimes either didn't win or played very close. So that'd be a little bit more pressure on him, just being like the past couple seasons, like with this is like the same argument people have with Ohio, where like, oh, Willie Taggart the year prior, FAU like won that game 48-14. So it's like, well, against FIU, Willie Taggart, they won like by 52 to like I think 6 or something. So now the kind of pressure like Herman, you gotta win by like 4 or 5 touchdowns in this game. Like you have to win this game.
I don't think that's the identity that this team should be striving for. Yeah, but I'm just saying like this team is definitely going to hang its hat on defense, and obviously with the Shula Bowl, it's a really hype game. That's the rival that everyone wants to beat by a million points, absolutely. But I just think what people need to do, and honestly, we said this last season. I guess in regards to, I believe, men's basketball, was that there should really just be no expectations. You know what I mean? Like,
that's it. I would say that's probably a good watch. Just because how can you? We're like, yes, we've been sitting up here for 15 minutes trying to do it, but it's really hard to predict. What a 53-man roster is going to do when 25 of those guys are brand new and have never played together. Yeah. And Herman said the other day, half of these guys he's never even seen play live in a live game via they were at another school last year or they were in high school. So it's really hard to make these predictions. So I like that, not going in there with any expectations. I'll say though that if we're picking like a really high pressure game, I'd be pointing to USF, man, because like
even though it's so late in the season.
Well,
I was just saying just early on, just because again, thinking that argument a lot of people had
early on
last season where it was like, oh, against Ohio, the former coach they took him out. It's now singing like for Herman kind of keeping that like strict thing on him, being like, well, the last time FAU played against FIU, because last season they couldn't because I forgot exact reason, like some certain rules with ACC and whatnot, but this is their first time playing against FIU in a non-conference game now.
Yeah.
So it's like now a little more pressure, being like, okay, I haven't seen FAU play against FIU in like over a year, so now a lot of pressure. Like, okay, the last coach, this is how the end result was.
I think we're getting obsessed with like the word pressure right now because I think like when your first game is a Power 4 conference game, like there's no pressure there. The game against Army, it's the first opening game. Like I feel like you can find pressure in all the games. So I do understand what you're saying. We haven't played.
Yeah.
I also think just seeing like the turnover for the past couple of seasons, because when I was a freshman here, the team went 5-7 and Willie Taggart got fired because like the season prior they also had a losing record. Now Coach Herman's first year here, granted the last stuff went into that, but again, 4-8, the 4-8, not really great record. It's not FAU got Herman because of like a turnover, how great he played. Always, most of his seasons he coached, a lot of the teams were above 500, and they went to the bowl game and they were undefeated. So now FAU, I feel like this season is very important for Herman because again, a lot of that turnover. We saw now like full year under his system, under the off season, all of that. And with this schedule, I mean, FAU really wants to see like something new, but like now we want to see having a 500 or above 500 season, as well as getting a bowl game and possibly winning to hopefully Boca Raton Bowl or possibly. So that's like this is a very important season for her.
No, I think what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go through all their games till the end of September, and we're gonna decide as a collective group. Feel free to petition your decision. If it's a win or a loss, and then I think from there we'll be able to kind of gauge how the rest of the season is going to look, because I understand what you're saying, where I think by the end of September we'll know if this is going to be a repeat season of years past, or if there's actually going to be some change. If FAU can punch Michigan State in the mouth and make that game come down to the last few seconds,
they're going 12-0. I'm just kidding.
Megan's like, if FAU defeats Michigan State, they're gonna go to.
She's like, I'm gonna start betting.
Actually,
I'll start betting.
That brings another thing to me as well, is also how big the season is. Also now with the new playoff format, where we've seen an AAC team like Cincinnati make it to the playoffs. So like now like a fifth conference.
Man, y'all talking about 6-6, but now we're bringing up the playoffs.
I'm saying like
we're at the goalpost, but
Let's break down
the schedule.
season.
So, first game at Michigan State. That's a loss.
Loss.
Yeah.
It's gonna be hard to play in there, man.
It's tough, man. I mean, at least it shouldn't be too cold. Oh, well, actually, Megan will be on the scene, so.
Yeah, we actually had to buy ponchos because it might be raining.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my dad bought some $2.
Honestly,
well, I didn't even know that.
If the game's gonna be raining, then I might give FAU a punching chance there.
Man, no, that's gonna make it worse for FAU. In a game like this, the saying in like in a game like this, the biggest disadvantage to a team like FAU, like talent-wise, is the trenches. So in a game where it's pouring down rain and each team is like running the ball, like only passing like 15 times, and like running the ball like 50, that's not a game FAU is gonna win. That's not my point. That's not my point. It's that I'm saying FAU does not want to get into a ground and pound rock fight with Michigan State. They're not going to win that just because they're so disadvantaged in the trenches. In a game where it's raining, that's what's going to happen, and it won't end well.
Percent chance of rain, so I guess we'll see. But the temperature is 85, so it's not going to be too cold. Like that won't be a factor. It's just the rain.
Yeah, 85 in East Lansing.
I know. I was hoping it'd be like 70.
That's a lot.
Too early.
September 7th, Saturday, 12 p.m. game against Army. I'm going to say that's a dub. I think the way Army plays, the way the concepts that they come up with in the run game and with all their motions, it's definitely going to be an interesting test for the defense. But I just think FAU has way more offensive firepower than Army. I say that's a win. What do we think?
I'm going to go with win. Just because I'm confident. The defense was kind of like the strength of the team last year, and that's what this game's going to come down to, when you're playing a team like Army that's running the ball 50 times a game. It's going to come down to like your front seven. And I'm after last year where the defense was a strength and don't have as many unknowns, I'm kind of more confident in the defense's ability than maybe the offense. So I like FAU in that game. Plus it's at 12, it's a nooner. It's going to give me FAU.
All right, so we're all in agreement. So that's a dub. We're 1-1 on the season.
Yep.
September 14th, Saturday, 6 p.m. game. FIU, the Shula Bowl comes back to Boca. I'm gonna take a dub. Yeah. I just think if history repeats itself, FAU should take care of business.
7 straight win.
I agree. I think it's a dub.
All right, it goes unsaid for Cam. We're 2-1 on the season. September 21st, Saturday game, 7 p.m. at Connecticut. Now, my rationale here is if you've already put together 2 wins back-to-back weeks, why not make it 3? I'll take a dub there for Connecticut. I mean, against Connecticut.
But what?
No, the dub is for FAU. Yeah, I got them winning in Connecticut.
It's hard to make a prediction for this game because I'm, not like the most foremost authority on like UConn football. But like you said, if they can go to East Lansing, be competitive, and then build some confidence with 2 solid home wins in a row. I'd like their chances, going to Connecticut and being able to steal one. Because is that game not on a Friday night too?
Saturday.
Saturday, okay.
Yep. Yeah, so that's 3 games in 3 weeks exactly for the football team. Actually, 4 games in 4 weeks because September 20th, Saturday, 6 p.m. versus Wagner, Owl Family Weekend. I think at this point, it's so funny because it's actually not very accurate with what we predicted on the UP, but on the article, but I think at this point, if we have a win at Connecticut, you might as well just take care of business and go take out Wagner.
I mean, they're also like FCS, and FAU like has pretty good record with FCS. Seems to actually open their last season against Monmouth.
Yeah, well, I mean, if they're going 3-1 in that stretch of the first 4, especially 3-1, and that one is a very competitive game at Michigan State, and then they follow it up by dropping Wagner at home, I don't really know what to think about this team. So I'm gonna be going with a win.
Yeah, especially with good news for FAU is because I do agree that'd be easy win for FAU. Because if not, there would be some riots in the street. But also after that is a bye week, so bye week preparing for your first conference opponent. North Texas, the first time both teams are playing each other in this conference. So
yeah,
I mean, that'd be good for FAU.
Confidently think that we're gonna after the Michigan State.
That's what I'm saying. Like y'all are. That's why I'm sitting here looking. Y'all are selling us short. Man, please pull up if we look at the schedule again, if I'm just going out like Megan's saying, if we're going 4-1, that would mean they would have to go 1-5. No, that's bad math.
If they go 4-0, then you're right.
Or 4-1, they would have to that would have to be a monumental collapse. I'm sorry, monumental collapse.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, we've seen the past 2 years. It's been a collapse the past 2 years. But if they're going, 1-5, they're finishing the season with a stretch of 1-5 in Tom Herman's second year, I I really don't see that happening.
So then maybe there's a loss at Army, but we already listen. We got to stand on business, all right? Because we already said it's a dub with Army and at Connecticut. I think if there's any two losable games, it's definitely Army and Connecticut. But I think FIU and Wagner should just be like just
No, I
bye
agree.
games at
Army
that
and
point.
Connecticut are kind of toss-ups, but if they win the Army game, then I have faith for Connecticut. But if they lose, then I don't have faith
Well,
for
Connecticut was like 3-9 last season. Army, I think, was like 5-7 or something. I do more research on them since I'm going to be calling that game for FAU, but for Al Radio. But
I'm just saying, if our prediction rings true and they start 4-1 and somehow find a way to miss a bowl game, conversations need to be had.
yeah,
Like,
This is why we have a podcast and
Yeah.
we have articles, because we get to just move the goalposts on each different medium. But yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see our next show, which will be Friday, 4 to 5. Right after that, I mean, I'm probably gonna go find somewhere to watch that game. So we'll be having live reactions on that. We're coming up on an hour, but before we sign off, just got a little live read here. Interested in a career in media? Come stop by the second floor of the Student Union to meet the 3 pillars of student media: OwlTV in room 231, Owl Radio in room 207, and University Press in room 214. If you're a journalism major, communications, marketing, or just looking for a cool community, check us out. UP general meetings are Mondays at 2 p.m., TV general meetings are Friday at 3, and radio general meetings are Monday at 3. For more information, search FAU Student Media online. So that was a great FAU housekeeping segment.
Yeah.
I'm actually so surprised that we were able to fit that all into 1 hour. We did want to talk about NFL Cut Day, but we're creeping up on that hour mark. Maybe we'll save that for the next show, because this was low-key just going to be like a hater session, low-key. I had some names down. We were going to say who we believe will be cut from the league in 3 to 5 years. Daniel Jones. So we'll get to that another time, but I appreciate everybody listening or tuning in on the YouTube, on Owl TV, all the people listening on the Breezeway, on Owl Radio. Shout out to you guys, and shout out to all the people watching live on our Instagram at UPress Sports. But before we sign off, where can they find you guys?
they can find me on Instagram at MaddoxBlade04 and on Twitter at Maddox Greenberg.
You can find me on Instagram at Megan_Brunsma and then Twitter Megan Brunsma.
You can find me on Instagram at jd.delcastillo and on Twitter jd_Delcastillo.
you can find me on Twitter at CamPriester247.
That's been the UPress Play. Thanks for watching, guys, and yeah, later.
Peace.